Good evening and welcome to Front Page, where the early signals behind the world's biggest moves come into focus. Leadership change at the top of tech, a space program entering overdrive, and an Indian state rewriting the investment playbook. Plus, a global giant choosing Hyderabad for its next chapter. Here are the headlines. Apple is accelerating its CEO succession planning, with reports indicating Tim Cook could exit as early as 2026 and hardware chief John Ternus positioned to lead the company into a redesigned iPhone era and a high-stakes AI-first future. ISRO Chairman V. Narayanan says India will enter its busiest launch phase ever, tripling spacecraft output as it prepares a 2028 lunar sample return mission, a new space station module, and a 2027 human spaceflight, positioning India for a larger share of the $1.8 trillion global space economy. Andhra Pradesh has sealed a whopping 13.25 lakh crore rupees in investments across 613 MoUs at the CII Partnership Summit in Visakhapatnam, creating 16.31 lakh jobs, winning back global investors from competing states and officially positioning itself as India's Japan, disciplined, resilient, and industrially unstoppable. And finally, Mattel, the maker of Barbie, Hot Wheels, and Uno, has opened its Global Capability Center in High Tech City, becoming the 70th plus GCC added in 2025 as Hyderabad overtakes Bengaluru in greenfield GCC growth, attracting 40% of all new global centers with names like Netflix, Eli Lilly, Costco, McDonald's, L'Oreal, and Charles Schwab, joining the city's 360-strong GCC ecosystem. Apple is entering one of the most consequential moments in its modern history. Good evening to Front Page. So after more than a decade at the helm, Tim Cook could reportedly step down as Apple CEO as early as next year, triggering the biggest succession transition since Steve Jobs handed him the reins. And the man most likely to take over, John Ternus, Apple's Senior Vice President of Hardware Engineering, the quiet force behind Apple Silicon, the modern iPhone lineup, and the hardware renaissance of the last 5 years. So if this happens, the upcoming 20th anniversary iPhone, the iPhone XX, could become Ternus's first major announcement as CEO. This looks a little more than just a leadership shift. It actually looks like the beginning of a new playbook for Apple. If you are actually waiting to upgrade your older iPhone to iPhone 17 Pro, I know I am, you need to actually listen to this. Apple's insider Mark Gurman recently reported that Apple is preparing the biggest iPhone transformation in its history. Not just a new product, a new release strategy. And here's what's coming. A full redesign kickstarting with the iPhone Air, a foldable iPhone arriving next fall, a new high-end curved class iPhone in 2027, and from 2026 onwards, Apple will release 5 to 6 new models every year, staggering launches across different quarters. So, for a company criticized for slowing innovation, this is Apple hitting the gas, and how. So 3 new iPhones in fall, 3 more in spring, which means we no longer are psyched only about a single mega event each September. We believe this is Apple spreading the risk, smoothing the revenue, and keeping competitors off balance year-round. And yes, you would have guessed it by now. The architect behind much of this reboot is Ternus. Now talking about Tim Cook, of course. He took over in 2011. Apple at the time was worth around $350 billion. Today, Apple's worth over $4 trillion, the most valuable company on earth. He built the world's strongest supply chain. He turned services into a multi-billion-dollar engine. He oversaw Apple's silicon, the watch, the AirPods era, and more importantly, the shift to India manufacturing. But the world Apple faces now is very quite different. AI competition is very real. Mixed reality is unpredictable. iPhone growth is slowing and regulation is intensifying, which is why a leadership reset makes sense. A new CEO for a new technological cycle. And here's another sign that Cook, the era, is entering its final chapters. Berkshire Hathaway has cut its Apple stake again, while quietly building a new $4.3 billion position in Alphabet. Warren Buffett has now sold nearly 3/4 of the 900 million Apple shares he once owned. And even after the sell-off, Apple is still Berkshire's largest holding, but the direction is quite unmistakable. Alphabet, meanwhile, has become Berkshire's 10th largest United States stock stake, a rare move from an investor who famously avoided most tech companies for decades. This is the market repositioning itself ahead of Apple's leadership shift. Buffett's portfolio is saying out aloud what Silicon Valley has whispered for months, which is the next battle in technology is AI first, not iPhone first. And Apple needs the right CEO to lead that very pivot. John Ternus represents everything Apple wants the next decade to look like, which is hardware-led innovation device, plus silicon integration, more ambitious industrial design, a focus on AI happening on device, not in the cloud, and a willingness to take risks that Apple avoided under Cook. So, if Cook was the stability CEO, Ternus could become the reinvention CEO. Apple has been criticized for being slow in AI, while Google, OpenAI, Meta, and even Samsung chase generative AI and multimodal systems. Apple focused on privacy, hardware cycles, and incremental upgrades. But with a new CEO, a new iPhone strategy, and a revamped AI roadmap, Apple appears ready to fight for relevance again. And the timing, well, is perfect. The iPhone XX era may be Apple's attempt to reclaim the innovation narrative. A hardware-driven Apple, led by Ternus, is, well, good news for India, because Apple is deepening its India footprint, expanding manufacturing, moving more component suppliers into the country, training local engineering and operations teams, planning deeper integration for India as its second major hub after China. Before I move on, I need to apologize. It is not Apple XX. I pronounced that incorrectly. It is iPhone 20. It is not iPhone XX. Mea culpa. Now, of course, moving on. So, if Apple is preparing for a hardware supercycle, India will be central to that execution. And here is the front page final take. Tim Cook stepping down would mark the end of one of the most successful CEO tenures in history. But it also raises the biggest question Apple has faced in years, which is John Ternus the right person to lead Apple through the next wave, which promises to bring with it foldables, AI native devices, and the iPhone 20 era. Because Apple is changing momentum, changing timing, changing strategy, changing the way it actually builds and releases the world's most iconic device, a new iPhone, a new schedule, a new vision, and maybe a new CEO. The only question is, will the Ternus era push Apple into its next trillion-dollar chapter, or will it expose how hard it is to fill Tim Cook's shoes? Please do let us know what you think in the comments below, and please stay with us as we track this leadership story at the world's most influential technology company in real time. India's space story just hit a new orbit. ISRO Chairman V. Narayanan has confirmed that Chandrayaan 4, India's most complex lunar mission ever, has been approved for launch in 2028, marking a historic shift in India's deep space ambition. And that's not all. ISRO is about to enter its busiest, boldest, and most consequential phase since the organization was founded. ISRO has 7 more launches planned this financial year alone, including a commercial communication satellite, multiple PSLV and GSLV missions, and a milestone moment, the first PSLV fully built by Indian private industry. I believe this is India scaling like a superpower. So, as global space economies prepare for a $1.8 trillion boom by 2035, India is positioning itself to be more than just a participant. It actually wants to be a contender. Narayanan confirmed what scientists have hinted for months. We are targeting 2028 for Chandrayaan 4, end quote. Unlike Chandrayaan 3's soft landing, Chandrayaan 4 will attempt a lunar sample return, a capability achieved only by the United States, Russia, and China. If successful, India becomes the 4th nation in human history to bring back pieces of another world. This mission changes India's lunar status permanently. Alongside Chandrayaan 4, ISRO and JAXA of Japan are advancing LUPEX, aimed at drilling into the lunar south pole to study water ice, the fuel, oxygen, and life support resource that will power future moon bases. LUPEX is more than just a mission. It's a claim to the most valuable real estate in deep space. India currently builds a modest number of spacecraft annually. That era is over. Narayanan says ISRO will triple its spacecraft production in 3 years, shifting from a mission-driven agency to a high-throughput industrial powerhouse. Why, you ask? Because the demand is exploding. More satellites, more lunar missions, more deep space probes, more commercial launches, a booming private industry with 450 companies and 330 startups, up from just 3 a few years ago. India is quietly building a space manufacturing economy. The Indian space station, planned for 2035, just got very real. Narayanan says the first of 5 modules will launch by 2028. If executed as planned, India becomes the 3rd major nation to operate its own space station after the United States and China. So, as the ISS retires and Tiangong ramps up, this positions India as a central node in the next era of human presence in space. A lot of confusion surrounded the Gaganyaan timeline. Narayanan clarified it. Uncrewed test shifted, but crewed mission remains 2027. Unchanged, 3 uncrewed flights will precede the astronaut launch. And then the big directive from the top. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has asked ISRO to send Indians to the moon and bring them back safely by 2040. India is now openly competing with NASA's Artemis and China's 2030 lunar mission. The space race is officially a 3-horse competition. Before India attempts another Mars mission, ISRO is very quietly solving the hardest problem in planetary robotics. How do you fly a drone on Mars with 0 GPS? So, in a first-of-its-kind challenge, ISRO recreated a Mars-like terrain: red soil, rocks, uneven slopes, and asked university teams to fly an autonomous drone that must, well, do this: identify 3 safe landing zones, land on a 45-degree incline, navigate only with vision, lidar, optical flow, and onboard compute, return home autonomously. No joystick, no manual override, no GPS, just raw on-board intelligence. Wow, it's quite a mission. So what happened? Drones crashed. Teams panicked. But only one team came close to completing the entire sequence. And the winners? They didn't use expensive NVIDIA Jetsons or RealSense cameras. They won using Raspberry Pi plus rotating LiDAR, proving that smart engineering can beat brute force hardware. But here's the interesting part. This challenge mirrors the exact constraints NASA faced with Ingenuity on Mars: limited payload, tiny compute, laser altimeters, and simple optical flow navigation. ISRO is building the talent and algorithms that will power India's next Mars mission. This is the under the radar ecosystem that makes Chandrayaan, Lupex, and future Mangalyaan upgrades possible. Right now, India holds 2% of the global space market, worth $630 billion. Narayanan wants that number at 8% by 2030. That is $44 billion domestic space economy by 2033. India's bet is very simple. More launches, more satellites, more private players, more global contracts, more space manufacturing, more influence. This is industrial policy at orbital velocity. And in conclusion, ISRO is no longer operating like a traditional space agency. It's behaving like a fast-scaling technology company with national stakes. 7 launches in months. PSLV built entirely by Indian industry. Tripling spacecraft production. Chandrayaan-4 sample return. Lupex water ice mission. Indian Space Station module in 2028. Gaganyaan crewed mission in 2027. Crewed lunar landing by 2040. 330 plus space startups and counting. India, as we can see, is clearly claiming a seat at the high table of spacefaring nations. The next decade belongs to countries that can build, launch, manufacture, and innovate at scale. And India has just declared it intends to be one of them. The only question now is, of course, will ISRO's industrial leap make India the world's next great superpower? Please tell us what you think. Tonight, you are saying something bold, something the internet has whispered for years. But today, the numbers finally prove it. Andhra Pradesh is the Japan of India. Disciplined, industrial, precise. Hit by setbacks and still bouncing back like a Super Bowl. Once ignored, once written off. Today, 13.25 lakh crore rupees in investments in 48 hours. That's close to $150 billion. 613 MoUs, 16.31 lakh jobs, and a state moving at a startup speed. And the funniest part, we got a wonderful little comment right now. And I think it's quite apt as well. It's actually somebody mentioning that Nara Lokesh is the Gen Z version of Chandrababu Naidu. Well done. India may have lost the cricket match yesterday, but Nara and his team, well, they just won the week. Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu didn't give speeches. He delivered commitments. He didn't promise ease of doing business. Like, well, we have said before, right here on front page, he announced speed of doing business. And investors responded like they were waiting for this moment for years. And now it's time for the breakdown, especially for all of you watching. The energy alone attracted 5.3 lakh crore rupees. The industries, 2.8 lakh crore rupees. Infrastructure, 2 lakh crore rupees. And every major sector is firing at once. The sense that one gets more from this is that this entire endeavor is that this is speeding ahead into nation building mode. And Naidu has also set insane targets. So far, it has attracted $150 plus billion in investments from the summit, $500 plus billion in investments in 5 years, $1 trillion in 10 years. So one of the biggest twists of the summit didn't actually come from India, but from South Korea. Hwasung, a major supplier to Adidas, had already signed an MoU with Tamil Nadu. They switched to Andhra Pradesh, to Kuppam, with $150 million investment and 20,000 jobs planned. Why? Simple. Skilled manpower, zero interference, fastest approvals, commitment backed execution, confidence from APEDB, the Andhra Pradesh Economic Development Board. So when companies start changing states because execution speed is higher, we all know that we are witnessing a structural shift. What we are actually going to talk about now deserves a lot more of your attention, because here it is. At the summit, Andhra Pradesh announced partnerships with Visa of the United States, and Cubitech and Q Krishi to train 50,000 quantum talent across the state, students, researchers, working professionals. What this does is that it directly feeds into the creation of Amravati Quantum Valley, India's first deep tech talent hub built at state scale. Well, this is how actually Japan built its semiconductor and robotics dominance. Talent first, industry next, and ecosystem forever. Andhra is running the same formula. Piyush Goyal announced something massive. India's first drone city and space city will be built in Andhra Pradesh. End quote. Naidu didn't waste time. He set two monster goals: $500 billion investments in 5 years, $1 trillion investments in 10 years, and then the killer announcement, which is this: MoU signed leads to escrow account auto created, leads to real-time fund release, leads to no officer chasing, end quote. So for the first time in India, a state is offering sovereign-backed investor protection. This is Japan-level governance engineering. AIFF, a 12-acre football stadium in Amravati. Space and drone clusters, Andhra Pradesh's 2047 vision. Visakhapatnam steel plant revival, no privatization. Quarterly performance reviews, corporate discipline. Past investment pledges being revived, zero political bias. And you know what is the best part? Investors said the same thing across panels. Andhra Pradesh gave us clarity, speed, and confidence, end quote. That's the holy trinity of industrialization. Skeptics always ask the same question, and well, we all know what that question is, but here is that question loud and clear for you. MOUs तो हर जगह साइन होते हैं, actual project कब आएगा? Naidu came prepared. At the summit, he announced an automated escrow system. Once you sign the MOU, the escrow account will be created automatically. Funds will be released through the bank in real time. You won't need to chase any officer. If needed, we will even provide sovereign guarantees, end quote. In plain English, this means no file pushing, no waiting in corridors, money linked directly to project milestones, state skin in the game via sovereign comfort. This is governance as code, policy wired into banking rails. Exactly the kind of system that convinces a Korean manufacturer to move from Tamil Nadu to Andhra Pradesh and global investors to sign MOUs they actually intend to execute. Let us look at the pattern. Discipline in planning ports, airports, and logistics. Precision in investment structuring and escrow automation. Speed in policy execution and approvals. Resilience after bifurcation and fiscal stress. Tech obsession, AI, quantum, drone city, space city, semiconductor, green hydrogen. Japan, as we all know, rebuilt from ruins with manufacturing clusters, export discipline, and tech leadership. Andhra is trying the same, but in the age of AI, data centers, and quantum computing. And here is the front page take. Here's what the scoreboard now reads: 13.25 lakh crore rupees investment pledges, 613 MoUs across 12 sectors, 16.31 lakh jobs projected, a Korean giant switching from Tamil Nadu to Andhra, Quantum Valley for 50,000 learners, Drone City and Space City on the way, automated escrow plus sovereign guarantee for investors, and a chief minister who openly says every family should have an entrepreneur. Every family should use AI, end quote. Kudos, sir. Well, this is huge and goes beyond just one summit. It's a signal that Andhra is redesigning itself from the household upwards. Households equals to entrepreneurs plus AI use cases. Districts equals to clusters in AI, quantum, logistics, agro processing. State equals to export engine plugged into a $1.8 trillion global space and tech economy. So at this pace, the real question isn't, will these MOUs convert? The real question is, will the rest of India move fast enough to keep up with Andhra? Because if Andhra's bet works, we won't just be saying Japan of India as a compliment, we'll be actually studying it as a case study in how to rebuild a state with AI, quantum, and ruthless execution. Please let us know what you think in the comments below. If you grew up in India any time after the 90s, Mattel wasn't just a toy company. It was a memory maker. Barbie, the doll that taught a whole generation what imagination could look like. Hot Wheels, the first car you ever owned and the one you still race in your head. We know it because I do. I think pretty much all of us do. Anyway, Fisher Price, the toy that made more noise than every kid in the house combined. Not to forget Uno, the card game responsible for the longest running family arguments in Indian history. In my family, they're still going on. Anyway, notoriously known for ruining friendship and for sure strengthened friendships for a few. We didn't just play with Mattel toys, we actually grew up with them. And today, the company that shaped our childhood has picked Hyderabad to shape its future. Mattel, the maker of Barbie, Hot Wheels, Fisher Price, Uno, American Girl, has opened its Global Capability Center, GCC, in Hyderabad. Yes, in Hyderabad, at Gaurav Palladium High Tech City. We would like to reiterate that Mattel is opening a global tech powerhouse and not a toy showroom. They're actually a center that will build this: AI-driven supply chains, cloud platforms, data analytics systems, digital transformation engines, global business workflows, future toy tech innovations for all 35 plus countries Mattel operates in. So with this, Hyderabad just got one of the world's most iconic brands and their next generation digital brain. So let us spell this out. 2025 alone, Netflix opened a GCC. Eli Lilly opened a GCC. Costco, McDonald's, P&G, Marriott, Daiichi, Vanguard, T-Mobile. The list goes on. Recently, L'Oreal announced their GCC. Charles Schwab, one of America's biggest brokerage firms, set up in Sattva Knowledge City. And now, Mattel. Hyderabad is adding GCCs faster than Bengaluru is clearing traffic on Outer Ring Road. Really? Sorry. According to Zefono's latest report, Hyderabad captured 40% of all new greenfield GCCs in the last 3 years. Bengaluru, 33% talent pool accessible. 47.8 lakh professional GCC workforce. 3.1 lakh women in GCCs. 33% women in leadership. 19% cost advantage compared to Bengaluru. 15 to 20% inbound job seeker ratio, which is 4:1. Because this GCC isn't about toys anymore. It's about technology. It's about the future of global logistics, AI-powered demand, forecasting, next-gen digital retail manufacturing, intelligence design workflows, cloud-native supply chain optimization. Mattel's products may be colorful, but their operations are ruthlessly data-driven. And Hyderabad, well, has the talent, the infrastructure, the policy stability, and the scale to run the back end of a $5 to $6 billion global company. This move signals three things. Hyderabad is now the world's GCC lab. Brands with global nostalgia are betting on Indian tech talent, and GCCs are no longer back-end centers. They are innovation engines. Mattel is emotional, nostalgic, global, and strategic. The city that built India's IT story in the 2000s is now building India's GCC story in the 2020s. Mattel choosing Hyderabad means India is a global operations headquarter. Childhood brands are becoming Indian engineering stories. High-tech city is evolving from IT district to global shared brain for the world's biggest companies. And maybe, just maybe, the best part, kids who grew up with Barbie and Hot Wheels may soon grow up to build Barbie and Hot Wheels from right here in Hyderabad. And since we are talking about the future being built in India, let's talk about the invisible layer that powers all of this: free and open source software. So in today's Tech Talk, our in-house tech journalist Bala Subramaniam CP alongside Sai Rahul Pururi, CEO of the FOSS Foundation India, one of the most influential voices shaping India's open source landscape, they will both deep dive into how India's engineers now sit at the heart of global digital infrastructure, contributing to everything from Python to Kubernetes, and why companies betting big on Hyderabad are also betting big on India's open source talent. They also break down a new challenge, which is this: how the explosion of AI-generated code is overwhelming OSS maintainers, flooding repositories with low-quality PRs, and raising urgent questions about quality, sustainability, and security. Hyderabad may be attracting GCCs at record speed, but India's open source community, led by visionaries like Sai Rahul Pururi and Zerodha's Kailash Nad, is the silent engine that keeps the world's software running. Please make sure to check out the full conversation. Bala, over to you.
Simply trying to say that we need to create a digital commons that everyone has access to, that everyone can use freely, that everyone should be able to build upon, that doesn't discriminate any one person or any one kind of usage. Okay. I'd gone to this professor for a summer internship. The professor said, here is some data, here are some visualizations that you need to create. I don't know how you will do it. I don't care how you will do it.
Ever since I was exposed to open source, it was very recently, so it was curious. I just wanted to understand, how do people gravitate towards open source?
That is when I started realizing that, oh, somebody is creating these open source packages. because I was at a company where we were creating open source packages.
Okay.
So over the course of like 2 months, I slowly, painfully figured out what Python was, how I could go about using it with the programming languages, with these open source like scientific Python libraries in this way. And then like I said, it was all about what do I use them for, what can I get out of it, and hey, if I am the person who's helping maintaining these packages, who are the people helping maintain NumPy and SciPy, what is the sort of history of how these packages came into being.
So the first thing I wanted to know about, like ever since I was exposed to open source, it was very recently. So it was curious. I just wanted to understand how do people gravitate towards open source? Like how was your journey? Like how it all began? In your website it says you started with physics toy models, and then you got exposed to open source and all.
Yeah.
So can you please explain that?
Yeah. So a lot of people right now are gravitating towards like free and open source software because they're finding jobs. It's directly helping them with like career growth and things of that sort. That's not just now, but I think that's always been like a very significant reason why people gravitate towards free and open source software. Me personally, I was just using it to solve my own problems. I'd gone to this professor for a summer internship. The professor said, here is some data, here are some visualizations that you need to create. I don't know how you will do it. I don't care how you will do it. Like, I just need the analysis done, and this is what I need from you. Like right at the end of it all, he said, hey, I've heard people use this language called Python to do these things. So over the course of like 2 months, I slowly, painfully figured out what Python was, how I could go about using it, how I can like load that data, how I can do whatever mathematical manipulations to it. Now called data analysis. How do I create these plots, etc., etc. This is the first time that I got exposed to packages like NumPy and SciPy and Matplotlib and everything. Way back in 2013, 2014. And then for 2 years after that, I found all of these things like quite interesting. So I just started coding a lot more. My background is in physics, so I was doing a lot of very small and simple Python models, Python mathematical models, physics models, etc., etc. I had a couple of good teachers, thankfully. So there were, I think, 2 courses that I did where we were trying to learn how to do computational physics. And the courses were being taught in C, which is a fairly popular language, and the other course was being done in this language called Mathematica. I said, look, I'm trying to learn Python. I want to learn these things better, and I do think other people will also benefit from it. So along with the standard assignments, I also submitted assignments in Python. So I kept like getting my hands dirty with the programming languages, with these open source like scientific Python libraries in this way. And then like I said, it was all about what do I use them for, what can I get out of it, and okay, I'm done with this, now I move on to the next thing. But then finally when I found a job as a scientific software developer, that is when I started realizing that, oh, somebody's creating these open source packages. Because I was at a company where we were creating open source packages. And I got involved in, okay, I'm going to add some documentation, I'm going to fix a bug here, I'm going to respond to a user there. Eventually, slowly, I'll start adding features, I'll start maintaining, I'll start doing some basic maintenance, etc., etc. So then, I think a year or 2 into the job, I started realizing, hey, if I am the person who's helping maintaining these packages, who are the people helping maintain NumPy and SciPy? What is the sort of history of how these packages came into being? And I think that I kept digging that hole deeper and deeper and deeper and trying to understand who these people are, what they do, what the best practices are, how new packages are coming up, etc., etc. Pandas is really, really popular right now, right? So first year of the job, I was using Pandas version 0.9, 0.10. So I got very lucky because in 2014, 2015, I was sort of in the front row, being able to see these new packages coming up and becoming popular, which are now fully established. And luckily enough, I guess I always had this interest in not just how am I going to use these things and do stuff with it, but also how are these things being created in themselves.
Okay. And your LinkedIn recommendations, I was going through it. It talks about how a great mentor you are, how a great team player you are. So is it coming from the open source orientation, or is it coming from is it your natural trait and open source became a natural companion?
Um, no, I'm going to thank my mentors for that.
Okay.
I got very, very lucky with my mentors at work.
Okay.
Like I said, I had great professors who guided me. My professor from the physics department, Professor Sriram, I wouldn't be here today if not for the time and energy that he took supporting me over the course of multiple years while I was like up and down with my academics. And then again, I got very lucky at work as well. Like Pankaj, Senganal, and Mark, they took a lot of time and energy in trying to mentor me, help me understand what the best practices in software are. How do you ensure that you are both writing good code, but you're also trying to do justice for the client on the other side. And that I take a lot of my inspiration from them. Like even in college, there were seniors who spent a lot of time helping us understand like astronomy and astrophysics and all of these various different concepts, right? So for me, it's just a way of giving back. Funnily enough, open source fits nicely into all of that.
Okay.
Because like open source is a team, it's a team game, it's a community game. So thankfully I already had seen a significant number of people spend time and energy on these things. So it became like a very natural thing for me to do the same thing in open source.
Okay. And I was very curious about the paradox which I observed in this community. Like a lot of techies, they think they're not political. They are political, and but the very act of being in open source is a political decision or political nudge they have given to themselves. So how do you see this, like this paradox?
So it's a good question. So free and open source software, which is what FOSS stands for, a lot of people confuse free for okay, I don't have to pay anything. But free actually stands for like this French term called libre. Libre is freedom, right? And we have a very tough time when we talk to students, and we have to very carefully juggle the sort of utilitarian aspect of free and open source software, where you use it, you can do things, and it is good. Versus, hey, look, you need to understand the philosophy and the politics behind free and open source software, right? As in, when we're actively trying to say that we need to create a digital commons that everyone has access to, that everyone can use freely, that everyone should be able to build upon, that doesn't discriminate any one person or any one kind of usage. It's a little bit surprising that current political discourse has got to a point where that has become political in nature. But at the same time, it is definitely like in some ways a political stance to take. A lot of people in the free and open source software ecosystem don't fully understand the philosophy. I think this is also the philosophical rift is the reason why there is a free software community and an open source software community. And again, people all around the world are trying to say that yes, there might be a political ideological rift, but at the same time, all of us are still on board in this idea of we're building things for the digital commons and for everyone. I think with a lot of not just political movements, but a lot of things in general, there'll be a few people who will be fully imbibed with the philosophy and the ideology and the like political nature or the political aspects of some of these things. And for a lot of other people, it's maybe okay not to fully understand. This is where I significantly differ from other people in the free and open source software ecosystem. There are people who believe that everyone needs to be fully aligned with the philosophy, and there are people who fully believe that like they don't care about the philosophy, they don't care about the politics, they don't care about the ideology. I'm just going to use it, move on. Everyone should just use it, and whatever will come of it will come of it. I'm definitely somewhere in the middle. It's important to understand the philosophy, but at the same time, we can't get people to care about the philosophy unless we're able to get them interested in it.
Okay.
The way I see it is like sometimes when I teach programming or when I teach physics, right, I don't start with equations.
Okay.
I create like a small little script where you can interact with something and then you can move a couple of sliders along and see things change.
Okay.
And that all of a sudden gets people interested,
Mm.
right? And then I can start saying, okay, this is what physics is, this is what this thing is,
More
here is
about
what
the
the
practical
equations.
thing first
Yeah.
and then the theory.
Right? So there's different ways in which we can go about it. I do want to get to a point where everyone does understand the philosophy in some way, in some meaningful way. But I definitely differ in terms of how we want to approach it and how do we want to go about it.
Okay.
And for me, it's definitely about like I want to get people curious and I want to get people interested in free and open source software.
Okay.
And then as and when they themselves are able to motivate themselves to be able to use it, contribute to it, create it, then it becomes a lot more easier for me to talk about the philosophy, the ideologies, the politics behind free and open source software.
So basically, we are in the mobilization stage,
Yeah.
irrespective of the knowledge of philosophy or not.
Yeah. This is personally the way that I see it.
Okay.
This is definitely not like Fortinet as a whole,
Okay.
but this is personally how I approach a lot of these things. Like I want to get people interested, I want to get people curious.
Okay.
And then that curiosity has a natural tendency to sort of infect everyone around you.
Okay.
And then once you've been infected with that curiosity, then like you yourself will start looking, or you're at least sort of activated to a point where you can have these conversations.
Okay. Okay. And if we think about the psyche of people who are getting into open source or free FOSS, so who are the people? Do they fall in any category? Who are mostly interested in the
Every year there's a good chunk of students who end up in the free and open source software ecosystem.
Okay.
There's credit where credit is due. Google Summer of Code, which is a program that Google runs,
Okay.
where every summer students are able to contribute to free and open source software projects and actually get paid to do this work. They have been able to attract like the cream of the crop when it comes to students every year wanting to participate in this, get that recognition, get that money. But apart from students who are getting into it, let's say for a GSOC, there's also a lot of students who are getting into it because like you need Python to be able to do most jobs now. You need Postgres to be able to do most database jobs. You need so a lot of the technology that we use to be able to do our jobs meaningfully, qualify for jobs, sit for placements, answer most of these questions. All of those things are practically free and open source software at this point.
So it's majorly the intention to get a job or become employed.
There's a lot of people. I mean, that is fundamentally the situation that we are living in right now, right? Like everyone is trying to think about how do I get a job, how do I stay in a job, how do I ensure that I don't have to worry about a job, right? So there's definitely a lot of people who, because how do I talk about philosophy to a person who's desperately trying to find a job? Right? Like this, I can't. There's no way in which I can do it. So a lot of people right now are definitely thinking about it from the point of view of this will help me get a job, this will help me upskill, this will help me stabilize, etc., etc. But at the same time, there are a lot of people who come to it from the point of view of, oh, I've been contributing to some community initiative, and I now want to bring software into that. Right? So there are people who write on Wikipedia. They're contributing to a digital commons, like something that belongs to everyone and everyone is able to use. And when they sort of like get bitten by the software bug, they say, okay, like I can maybe create free and open source software. There are a lot of researchers who get into this because they're trying to write solutions, they're trying to do things, researchers, startups, etc., etc. They're trying to get off the ground, get to a product which is viable and take it to market with significant financial constraints. So most startups are also relying on free and open source software across the board because you need to ensure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. And free and open source software is the best way to ensure that you're getting the most bang for your buck. So there's a lot of enterprises, industries who are also getting it into it in that way. Researchers who are coming into it because they realize that, hey, I'm doing something Someone on the other institute or maybe in the lab next door, they can use the analysis that I created and then they can also do research.
Okay.
So why do I want to hoard this script by myself? This is the concept of open science, right?
Yeah.
Open science, open data. So anyone who's interested in this sort of I want to contribute to a community, I want to contribute to a commons.
Okay.
When they find the software interest, they get into the free and open source software ecosystem. That's roughly the different kinds of people who end up here. There's also people who are like fully politically, philosophically motivated, and then they come into it already activated, and then they pick up the software skills necessary. But that's a very small but very, very influential fraction of people.
Okay. And in your website, you said there were a lot of FOSS communities before FOSS United came in the picture. So can you please talk about that?
Oh yeah, there have been. This isn't like a new thing, and we are not doing something that is like, oh my god, nobody has done before.
Okay.
So way back in the 2000s, there was this conference called FOSS.in. This person named Atul Chitnis, I think. I hope I'm not butchering his name. He ran the conference for like a lot of time. There are Linux user groups all across the country.
Okay.
India, Linux, I think it's called ILUG, ILUG, and then there's ILUG Delhi, ILUG Chennai. There are free software communities. So for example, Free Software Community of India, FSCI. There's free software user groups all across the country. These communities in Kerala and Andhra, it's called Svecha. I think in Bangalore and Karnataka, it's called Free Software Movement of Kerala, FSMK.
Okay.
So there have been other communities before, and yeah, we're just one of the newer communities in this ecosystem.
Okay.
And like everyone else, we're trying to promote free and open source software.
Okay.
Ideologically speaking, some communities are very specific about we'll only talk about free software. There are other communities which are also specific about we'll only talk about open source software.
Okay.
For us, it's like we're trying to be in the middle. We're trying to say that we are perfectly comfortable with both free and open source software. And yeah, for us, it's a lot more about bringing new people into the ecosystem.
Okay. So FOSS United is like across the country in different cities. So it's more active in some cities, less active in some cities.
Yeah.
So I went through your website, like 2 locations like Shimoga and Vadodara was inactive. So what does it say about the vibrancy of FOSS? What does it say about the soul of a city?
Great question, man. So a lot of my responses for people is, and I'll say this about FOSS United as well.
Okay.
I think people freak out too much when companies die or communities die.
Okay.
Like people, communities also have like a life, and sometimes they die.
Okay.
For a lot of different reasons. Maybe they die early, maybe they die after a long time, maybe in a few exceptional cases, they've been able to constantly bring new people into the community and therefore they continue to survive, right? And it's not just those two, it's not just Vadodara, it's not just Shivmoga. There's a lot of cities in the country where there were a few people who came up.
Okay.
They said, hey, we want to start a FOSS community in our city. We'd like to work with you, FOSS United. And for us, it's a very simple yes.
Okay.
Like we don't want to sort of set the bar at unless you are X, Y, and Z, we'll not affiliate ourselves with you.
Okay.
For us, it's a very simple, yeah, sure. Like, how can we support? How can we help? Right? And then after that, it's also like very natural for if that person is motivated enough, then that continues.
Okay.
If that person or other people around them are able to figure things out between each other in terms of like this month I will do it, next month you need to, and the month after that somebody else, because maybe not everyone is able to spend every month focusing and like helping do some of these things.
Okay.
So I think there's always going to be places and communities which are going to start, they'll experiment and then they'll die out. I don't think we mourn the fact that there are so many startups which died. For us, it's actually, we want to talk about the fact that there were communities which died out, or at least have gone on a hiatus.
Okay.
And for us, it's also about if we run across anyone from those cities later on, and they say, hey, we know that there used to be a community, we want to restart it, we want to reignite it. Like, please give us the responsibility to take it forward. It can be a very simple yes.
Yeah.
Right? So for us, it's about where are the people coming from, and wherever they're coming from across the country, whatever we can do to support them, we'll do it. But if the people themselves aren't able to keep it going, we aren't going to artificially like keep them alive. We aren't going to
Not going
artificially,
to
yeah. Because again, like it talks about the people, the place, the constraints that they are living in. Maybe that was not the right place. Maybe that was not the right time in that place. Right? So it's just a question of maybe a year later they'll be mature. Maybe a year later other people will be able to come in. Maybe a year later they'll have more time on their hands to be able to dedicate more time to these things. That's the way that we talk to a lot of city communities.
Okay. And regarding the folklore, which Force United has, it's like a slam book for comments. That's the term you have given. So how do you balance the fun side of the story with the agenda? Like, why was it created? How do you do that?
So I'll be very candid. The fun side is fully attributed to this person on our team called Ashlesh. The original idea was, hey, I just want to highlight people in the free and open source software ecosystem. A lot of the times the focus ends up on the projects, right? The projects is what the end users have heard. The projects are what people are attracted to. And a lot of the times the people sort of get buried. There's definitely a few people who have like a cult of personality, right? There's a few people who have a following. Sorry?
Within the community.
Even within our community and even in general in the FOSS ecosystem, right? But I don't want to leave that to that person's personality for them to like get discovered, for them to have a following, for their voice to be heard. So it started out with just a simple thought in my head that no, I just want to talk about the people in the free and open source software ecosystem in India. Ashlesh came and made it fun. Because the thing that didn't occur to me, and it occurred to Ashlesh right away because he's not from a software background, is no, you need to make this relatable, man. You need to figure out some way in which you make this relatable to people. You need to try and get some sort of a personal connection out of it. Yes, it is still a website. Yes, it is still you reading something passively. But at the same time, there's some way in which maybe one question which isn't like standard, maybe one prompt that will get them to say something which is going to make them personable, right? And yeah, that's all Ashlesh, and that's also changed the way that we are actively thinking now. Like we do. When we think about storytelling, we are very actively thinking about how are we making these stories personal? How are we able to make people relate to the people who are building software and maybe even the projects that are being built.
And the job board, how is it faring well?
I am pretty happy with it. We overall get a regular stream of applications. It's definitely not as big as, let's say, some of the other larger job boards. Maybe we get 1 or 2 applications every month. But the thing that we are happy about is the fact that almost every job application which comes to our job board, we're able to point a few people to that application. We're able to recommend a few people naturally discover it. And because we know people across the country who are volunteers and we've seen their work ethic, right? We are able to recommend people. There was a blog post that we put out where we talked about, I think, 3 or 4 different success stories that we had, where I think in one case, someone came to us with a job opening. They had just put it out. 6 hours later, we were able to recommend someone. They had a call with that person and they closed the job application. This happened with a couple of other companies, like within 1 day, within 2 days, that sort of a thing. We are not trying to go for, we will be the place for fast jobs in the country. That's definitely not what we're trying to go for. Small is perfectly good. We want to recommend people, we want to promote people, and we want to support the people from the ecosystem. And anytime we're able to get like a student who's spent like 3 or 4 years in the free and open source software ecosystem, and we're able to get them into a company which is supportive of free and open source software, that's a big win for us.
Okay.
Because it's ensuring that these people don't go into companies where they don't care about FOSS, they don't talk about FOSS, and like we lose touch with these people. We lose these people because they're not able to continue being involved in the community. So that's what most of the focus around the job board is.
Okay. Okay. And can you shed some light on the trends in FOSS and open source?
There have been a lot of interesting things going on, especially in India over the last couple of years. Again, this is like before when I even started this. For the last 2-3 years, and again, this isn't just the FOSS United effect either.
Okay.
There's been a lot of interest and a lot of people who have been creating new open source projects. One of the questions that I was asking people at a recent PyCon India conference was, how many open source projects can they name which are from India?
Okay.
And when I started telling them a few projects, they were like, oh, I didn't know that was from India. I didn't know this is from India. I didn't know, I use that regularly. I didn't know that we had a maintainer from India for that. And that trend has significantly shot up. I've told a few people who are maintainers of packages which I look up to, and these are like young 25-year-olds who are maintaining these packages. I've told them that, look, like I feel very happy and very proud. At the same time, I feel a little jealous that I wanted to do these sorts of things when I was getting into a job market. But it's great to see that there are like youngsters now who are maintaining a lot of these packages. There's a lot of people who are coming in and maintaining very popular things. Again, like NumPy, SciPy, Pandas, etc., right? There's a lot more people who are contributing to these packages. There's even more people who are maintaining and creating new packages.
Okay.
There's been an absolute explosion of interest in, hey, I have this problem. I think I can solve this by myself, and let me just put something out.
Okay.
One interesting thing about generative AI and LLMs is, for people who have the right thinking and for people who know the problem and the problem domain very well, they're able to just hammer code out.
Okay.
They're able to just work with that LLM to be able to put out a meaningful open source project in like a fraction of the time that it will take for them if they had to do everything from scratch. And maybe for a lot of people who don't have the software skills, they just won't even be able to do it.
Okay.
Right? That's an interesting thing, especially over the last 6 months to 1 year. There's definitely been instances of people using these things in absolutely beautiful and amazing ways. There's all the negative sides as well, but yeah, talking about the
You want to
interesting
talk
things
about the negative sides as well
of generative AI, of open source.
of open source.
So one of the fundamental problems with free and open source software is just the fact that so few people acknowledged it in the first place. A thing that we, and me especially, that I keep telling people is, when we tell people you should contribute to free and open source software, a lot of people think that we're asking them to give money, and that maybe that is the starting point. Some other people think that, oh, maybe they're telling me to start contributing to free and open source software projects. Maybe I should code, maybe I should do some documentation or do something else. For me, maybe this is bringing the bar too low. But I've told people that just publicly acknowledge usage.
Okay.
Right? Just publicly acknowledge the usage of a free and open source software project. A lot of closed source software, right? When you go to like a website of a closed source software project, they'll say, oh, we are used by all of these large companies and we are used by all of these like big name institutions. That's because they have a team of people, of marketers who are like sort of like keeping an eye on who all are using our stuff, and they're constantly updating the website. Most open source projects don't. Right? So even were cases where we know that a project is being used in like the US government and the Indian government and in political parties, this project doesn't have the capacity to maintain that sort of list on their website. And it ends up being a big problem because either there's a volunteer who constantly keeps covering for this information, or you just let go and say, fine, whoever is using it, whatever happens. So one thing that I've been telling a lot of people is, if you use an open source project, especially like a project that isn't well known, that isn't popular, it'll be great if you just speak up. Speak up publicly, right? One of the pages that we have is a stack page. So it's just fosunited.org/stack. It has a list of all the open source projects that we use.
Okay.
Some of them are fairly well known, some of them are not.
Not okay.
So for example, we use something called Jitsi as an alternative to Google Meet or WebEx or Zoom. Jitsi is fully free and open source,
Okay.
right? So something like just a /stack page where you acknowledge the fact that yes, here is all the free and open source software that we use internally. I mean, it's no company is going to win or lose because they use Google Meet or they use Jitsi.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not going to impact your bottom line in any meaningful way. But it will significantly help projects like Jitsi or again, even other less popular projects. If you publicly acknowledge the usage of it and maybe even go and talk to them, tell them that, hey, look, we use your thing. This is absolutely great.
Okay.
As someone who's maintained open source packages, right? Every once in a while, maybe once in a year, we'll get a message, email from one of our users saying, hey, great job, folks. Please keep the thing going. You're doing good work. Like, new updates are very interesting. New updates are very fast, etc., etc., etc. So just that one like iota of appreciation goes a very, very long way. So start with appreciation because there isn't a lot of that happening. Start with public acknowledgement. And then once you start acknowledging, once you start realizing yourself that, oh my God, only through public acknowledgement am I realizing that here is all the open source things that I'm using. Maybe those projects will naturally come to you and say, hey, look, you're using it. We are in a little bit of financial trouble. We don't have enough money to continue maintaining these things. Could you please give us some funds? Right? We are trying to work with like people on both sides, but we as Force United end up focusing a lot more on the maintainers, right? Because those are the community, those are the people that we know very well. But these decisions of acknowledgement, there's some amount of like, it needs to come from the inside. People who are building technologies, the software developers, the engineering managers, the technical directors, the architects, they need to feel some sense of responsibility and some sense of appreciation so that they're able to push their teams, hey, let's just publicly acknowledge these things.
Okay. So the funding that comes into Force United, apart from Zerodha and Frappe, they are the founding companies. So apart from them, who are the other people who are, why would they want to donate to Force United? What is the intention, the motive behind? Are there any expectations are they expecting anything in return? So how does it work?
That has been one of the best things and also something that like we need to work on improving, which is all of our funders are coming in without expectations. They're saying, here is a bunch of money, you're doing good work, keep doing the good work, and they're continuing to support us because they're seeing a thriving community, they are participating in the community and they are getting something or the other out of it. Or they themselves use free and open source software and they feel like I want to donate money somewhere, right? There are a lot of companies which will give money to a project directly. But we are lucky enough to have people who say that, yes, I'll give some amount of money to a project, but I also want to give some amount of money to a community which is actively trying to build this ecosystem up, right? One of the communities which is actively trying to build the ecosystem up. And that's where that's been our understanding, my understanding, having talked to all of the people that give us funds. Apart from that, there's also like some amount of, not necessarily quid pro quo, but there are a lot of people who sponsor our conference because they get to access their potential end users, right? There's a lot of people who are building either open hardware projects or like open source software projects where being at the event and being a sponsor of the event means you're able to directly access some of these people. And we also had a couple of great instances where we supported them a year or two back. We helped them get a grant. We helped them become popular. We gave them a platform so that they could talk to the community. And we are now in a place where they want to say that, no, we want to support you back because you've really helped us when we were growing. And that was an absolutely beautiful thing to hear from them when they just came and said, we're not expecting anything, here's just a bunch of money. We want to be sponsors, but at the same time we're doing it not because we're expecting like something in return, that we expect you to give us some special treatment as sponsors, etc., etc. We're definitely working on attracting like a much wider group of funders. We constantly keep reaching out to a lot of organizations, and we keep going back to organizations which gave us funds before, uh, uh, and we're trying to understand what it is that they would like to fund, right? So in some cases, if they want to give money directly to projects or grants, then we're perfectly happy to say that, okay, fine, why don't you share the funds with us? We'll figure out who to give money to, how much to give to them, why are these the right set of people, and so on and so forth. And when the funds are finally dispersed, we'll give you an acknowledgement, and we'll tell you what is going on. Right? We'll tell you where did the funds get dispersed. So those are some of the ways in which we're trying to attract new sponsors, attack this problem, attract new sponsors. We're trying to say, what would you like to do, right? Are you one of those sponsors who just wants to give funds because you yourself have gotten a lot of financial benefit out of it, which is again the case with practically every software supported company, every company that has built software, or are you trying to look for something more? Are you trying to, do you want to give in a specific place? Do you want to give to a certain thing? Do you want to support a specific cause, etc., etc.? And yeah, we'll hopefully figure out over the coming year or two if we're able to attract more of these sorts of sponsors who want to fund specific initiatives, specific work, or just want to support us for the work that we're doing.
And so I was talking to a colleague of mine. So he was telling within the open source community, there are a lot of people who don't, who are wary of artificial intelligence. So I just wanted to understand, is it the hostility against the technology, or the way it is controlled by these bigger companies or the proprietary platforms?
So, personal opinion, and then also what I've seen, right? So, I used AI at my previous work, right? I built models, I deployed models, AI, machine learning, deep learning, everything. And I firsthand saw the kind of impact that artificial intelligence can have. I'm not going to sit here and say that artificial intelligence has no value whatsoever. That's completely meaningless. That statement is not true. Artificial intelligence has value. It potentially has immense value. A lot of the problem that the free and open source software community has is both with the philosophy with which AI is being pushed right now, and also the people who are controlling and dominating the ecosystem right now. So one example, this is now the ecosystem perspective, right? There's a project called Curl, CURL. They are a very critical open source project. Practically every smartphone that we have, every smart device that exists that needs to talk to the internet has curl on, practically every single, including cars, right? So being such a critical open source project, they get a lot of security reports. And because of generative AI, there are people who are sort of submitting false security reports, untrue security reports, just because they've used a generative AI model, that model picks something up, and then they didn't have the capacity to understand whether the generative AI model was correct or not, right? Whether that result that it gave, is that correct? Is that interpretation correct? Is it understanding the things the right way? So these people have just sort of copy pasted the result from generative AI, posted an issue, said that, hey, look, there's a security vulnerability in curl, and there's a financial expectation there. If you report a significant security vulnerability, sometimes you get bug bounties. You get a significant a bounty for reporting and finding and disclosing that vulnerability. And now people are gaming that system, right? So generative AI is being used, again, not just with security vulnerabilities. There are people who are opening pull requests, which are just absolutely irrelevant or even if they are relevant, it is impossible to decipher those pull requests, decipher those changes. There are projects which are getting pull requests of like 10,000 lines, 100,000 lines, and no single reviewer can understand what all is being changed here.
Okay.
So there are people, again, maybe with good intentions, but they're going about things fundamentally in a detrimental way.
Okay.
And open source projects are at the receiving end of all of this.
Okay.
Free and open source projects are getting wrong bug reports, getting bad pull requests, getting meaningless issues, and we are already overburdened. Most of the free and open source software projects are not paid to do this work. Most of it is volunteering time, and add on top of that, oh no, like I'll give you untrue bug reports, I'll give you extra work to do, etc., etc. It just becomes very difficult, right? Life just becomes very difficult. The other fundamental problem also is free and open source software. One of the fundamental aspects of free and open source software is if you use the software, you need to acknowledge its usage in your application. So, for example, whether you have an iPhone or an Android, somewhere in the settings, you'll be able to navigate to a place where you will see licenses. And if you click on that, you'll actually see all the licenses of free and open source software that is used in an Apple or an Android, right? All the various different software, open data, etc., etc., etc. And that is legally enforceable. A user of a free and open source software has to acknowledge the use of that project.
Okay.
Most of the coding generative AI is built on code from GitHub.
Okay.
And now when you ask any generative AI machinery, an LLM, if you ask it to write some code, it is highly likely that the code it has written is based on the code that it saw from free and open source software projects. But when you regurgitate it, you are not able to say, where did I learn this? Which project did I learn this design pattern from? Which project did I learn this way of writing functions, this way of calling functions, right? And that is a fundamental problem because we are losing any meaningful semblance of intellectual property and copyright enforcement, right? And that is another fundamental reason why open source communities are heavily pushing back against the current way in which AI and generative AI is being pushed, is being built, and it's being managed.
Okay. Okay. And from the community, free and open source community, how do they? What is their idea about a democratized AI?
So, for us, free and open source software fundamentally, like in its ethos, is use it for whatever you want, right? An important thing to mention about software is the fact that software encodes the biases of the creators, right? There are certain mental models I have, there are certain ways in which I think, there are certain questions I ask, there are certain questions which I don't think of. All of those end up influencing the software that I write, and the problems that it solves and the problems that it doesn't solve, right? When that is fundamental to our ethos, that you should be able to use it for whatever it is that you want, and you have full freedom to be able to use it in any meaningful way. Democratized AI, where people are able to participate in artificial intelligence, where people are able to influence the way that the models are working, where people are able to meaningfully push back or put back pressure when the models are doing the wrong things, or are able to significantly contribute to here is how the model should be regulated, here is how the model output should be understood, here is how the model should be transparent. It's all fundamental to our ethos, right? Personal opinion is I'm all for artificial intelligence which is transparent, which is auditable, which is accountable to people, and where people are able to participate in the model's evolution itself.
Okay. And with respect to governments, so our AI for Bharat, Bhashni, all these things are built with open source as the foundation. So the government being a major beneficiary, or they are touting, or they are using this to, to make a grand announcement. So in this case, what do you think government should do to ensure the fast and free open source community gets what it deserves?
Again, great question. There's a couple of places where like I've added I added comments about this, but so there is an existing law in India, which was passed in 2014, if I remember correctly, which is the policy on adoption of open source software for the government of India. It very clearly says that wherever possible, whenever there's an equivalent open source software to a closed source alternative, the government is going to pick the open source software. But like most things in India, like the thing that we say is we have good policy, but we have bad enforcement, right?
Yeah.
But fundamentally, it is bad policy. It is bad policy because we designed the policy which is not enforceable. We designed it and passed it knowing that we don't have the state capacity to enforce it. The reason why I'm saying it is what we would like to do, what we would like from the government is if they're able to fund free and open source software. And any place where they are supporting the creation of new AI models, it'll be great if the models themselves are free and open source, if they follow the free and open source software ethos, if the data is open, if the software is public, so on and so forth, right? Wherever possible, as much as possible. There's also a lot of misconceptions here. A lot of people think that, oh, software is open, the data is also going to be open. No. We, and not, when I say we, I don't just mean Force United, but there are tens, if not hundreds of people who are experts in free and open source software, in AI, in machine learning, in deep learning, etc., etc., etc. And all of us are more than happy to talk about what the reality is in terms of, hey, look, if you want to support it, here is how you could support it. Here is how you can support it financially. Here is the specific projects that you can give to. And if you are putting out tenders for new companies to build new models, here is what we would request, right? Here is how you can put the tender out so that the model is actually going to be open source. The data is going to be open. The model training is going to be public, etc., etc., etc. At the end of the day, just like software, right? The government is one of the largest procurers of software in not just in India but in any country. So for that reason, the government does need to act in the interest of the Indian population as a whole. And in our very strong opinion, in my very strong opinion, it is definitely the case that if they're supporting the creation of democratic AI, democratic as in again, the models are freely available for people to use, there are no license restrictions, the data is public, the model training is, scripts are public, etc., etc., etc. It is, in our understanding, in my understanding, beneficial to everyone.
Then let's talk about the elephant in the room, the corporations. So a month back, I was attending the Force United event. So there was a talk about publicly shaming the corporations who don't give it back, but consume like extensively. So is that the way to go, or how do you make them accountable? Is there any plans? How about the Indian scenario?
I honestly don't know how we can make people accountable. Like, we don't have any authority anywhere. And I do understand that people have a lot of different ways in which they want to go about it. There are definitely people who are like naming and shaming large corporations, and they are calling out the free and open source software that again, like, they are already acknowledging. Right? Let's say you open an app and you see the fact that in the disclosures they mentioned that they support, like, they use XYZ open source project. Then the immediate question becomes, if you are using them and if you are making like crores, if not tens or hundreds of crores of rupees in profit on top of it, why aren't you giving any of it back? Right? And I think we do need to try and attack this problem from all angles. With some people, maybe naming and shaming is the right way of going about it. With some people, maybe helping them understand and realize the value that they are getting out of it is the best way of going about it. With some other people, there's a sense of we don't even know who to give to. Right? So there again, that's where like orgs like us, Force United, we want to help. Let's say you are inclined, you are interested, but you have no idea where to put the money in. We are more than happy to help you figure it out. or if you don't want to take care of dispersing the money, like I said, we are happy to take it, and then we are happy to disburse it ourselves and give you the acknowledgement and tell you what where the money was dispersed. But this is definitely a problem. In general, this isn't just like Indian enterprises, but most enterprises are extremely extractive in nature, right? They're trying to squeeze anything and everything from anyone and everyone, including open source software packages. There's a lot of trauma that free and open source software creators and maintainers receive on a very regular basis, because corporations go to them, open issues, and tell them that you have to do this for me. You created a package, that package has this bug, you have to fix it for me because I work for this company and we are using your open source package. And when these people say, like, give us money to be able to support this work, and if you want us to like fix this ASAP, then I'm happy to put other things on pause and do this work. Give me money. The companies are like, no, like this is free. Why are you asking for money? So it's a fairly like regular thing, and it has happened in the past and it continues to happen, that not just is it highly extractive, there's also a sense of entitlement that you've given it for free and now you owe me updates for the rest of like, your life. You owe me bug fixes for the rest of your life. So there's a mentality shift that we are hoping happens in the long term. Maybe naming and shaming is the best way to get that mentality shift. But for a lot of other people, like I want to assume ignorance and not malice for a lot of people, right? And if I'm assuming ignorance for a lot of people, then a lot of our work, the FOSS community in general, is about helping them recognize, acknowledge, publicly acknowledge, and then finally get to a point where they're able to give. And we're not even talking about a lot of money. Like if all the organizations are able to pool together hundreds of crores of rupees for India on an annual basis, I think that will make a significant dent in the free and open source software ecosystem. And there are non-profits or there are organizations which donate as much singularly as part of their CSR initiatives. Right? It's a problem of not acknowledging, and then it's a problem of there not being any interest. We definitely are seeing a cultural change there, where a lot of newer companies are by themselves coming forward and saying that no, we know exactly how much this has helped us. We will help financially as much as possible, and if you're not able to help financially right now, we'll at least make the connections for you so that you're able to get other sponsors. This is exactly what happened last year and happened this year as well. There was a company which wasn't able to support us themselves for the conference that we run, but they said no, I'll put you in touch with this other company I know, they would love to support you, and then we got like financial support from them as a sponsor. And this year we were able to help them over the last couple of years get established, grow, and this year they said no, we want to give money, we want to support you financially, here's a bunch of money. So a lot of newer startups, newer companies, these are people who have for the last 10-15 years been deeply imbibed in the free and open source ecosystem and the philosophy, so they are naturally doing it. And there are more and more people of that mentality who are getting into startups and leadership positions and so on. But yeah, I don't think we can just sort of naturally wait for these people to eventually reach larger positions. While that happens, we also are trying to again, like reach out to companies, talk to them, help them understand, and try and get them to understand all the different ways in which they can support.
And what about the startups? Like, how are they? Are they giving it back in a better way than corporations?
It's a very easy answer for me, because for the India First conference, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 startups and small companies, all of whom were sponsors, and we had 2 or 3 large established companies. So pure number-wise, there's definitely we are seeing a decent chunk of startups which are coming forward and saying, even if it is not as much, and even if we're not able to do more of this in the future, we still at least want to do this. So it's definitely happening.
And regarding this, the comparison you made between WhatsApp and Aratai. So you compared it. You talked about the interoperability of the messaging ecosystem. And in that conversation, are we piggybacking on the nationalism wave to create another, you as you called it, garden, like walled garden. So, what is the solution?
Again, I not just with the article, but like usually I try to be very careful with my words. So even in that article, nothing against Zoho, nothing against Aratai, right? The fundamental problem is the fact that we are promoting these walled gardens. We are promoting, as the government and these large players, we are promoting people to move from one walled garden to another, one closed platform to another. And that doesn't have to be the case. I don't want to speculate on why the government is doing this, on why there was this significant messaging from the political class about Aratai and moving away from WhatsApp and so on. I think we've had similar-ish things happen in the past. I think there's a social media app called Koo, and there was a lot of commentary about, oh no, we're going to ditch Twitter and we'll go to Koo. But I think Koo is now shut down. Again, and I think there was also a lot of messaging from the political class again, saying that no, we've all ditched Twitter, we've all moved to Koo. The fundamental problem there again is it's always trying to push. No, it's about like supporting India. It's about Atmanirbharta. All good. Yes, we are fully in line with being independent and having the freedom to be able to do whatever we want to do, which is exactly what the whole ethos of free and open source software is. But it's surprising to me personally why people don't understand the fact that they're going from one walled garden to another. Right? Especially the fact that a lot of people aren't even acknowledging that there are alternative systems and ways in which these things could be set up. Like I mentioned in that article, there are other apps which you could use. Let's say, imagine this world where you're able to message on WhatsApp and I'm able to receive those messages on Telegram, right? That world can exist and does exist right now, just not with WhatsApp and Twitter. There are other applications which are able to send messages to and from one another. I am using one application because I like its UI. You're using another application because maybe you and your whole family likes using that application. And we're still able to talk to one another. Why is it that I can't use Signal to message you on WhatsApp and you can't use WhatsApp to message me on Signal? When we have people who are framing policy decisions, and when those are the same people who are saying, no, like we'll not fix the underlying policy problems. We will incentivize the creation of interoperable messaging platforms. We'll enforce existing messaging platforms to become interoperable, which again is possible because it's already happening like in other places, right? When the messaging isn't that, but the messaging is, no, just switch from this to that. That is what I find disappointing. And here again, like, I think the free and open source software community and public interest technologists in general, I feel like it's one of our responsibility to make people realize what is even possible in the first place. And until people realize that, hey, when that is possible, why are we still stuck on this? Until then, we're not going to have people understanding and people will just continue following.
Okay. There are two lighter questions. So you'll have to take this in a candid way. So if you get an offer from a major corporation who's not contributing to the open source and it's a killer package, how do you decline the offer?
I'll just say no.
That's all.
It's a very simple no. I'm in an extremely privileged position. Let me start with that. Right. I don't have loans yet. I don't have a family that desperately needs me to financially support them. I'm in a very, very privileged position to say, it's okay. I don't care if it's like 1 crore. I don't care if it's like how much ever crore. Don't want it. Don't want it. Don't need it. If these are people who are actually caring, if they will listen, I'll see if I can convince them to match like a donation to free and open source software communities of the same size. I'll ask them if there can be fundamental cultural change in the organization to be able to give more to open source projects, whether that is via code, that is money, or whatever else. The reason why I'm saying this is, while I don't want to, I think there are a lot of people, hundreds if not thousands of people who are in such positions right now in the Indian industry, right? They are able to exert a significant influence on their employer because they're in a position of power.
Okay.
They have something which the employer desperately wants. And I do think that very few individuals have that privilege and have that power. And it'll be great if more of those people start exerting and like being influential in that way, right? If they're able to say, you know what, it's okay, I'll take a little bit of a pay cut. If it goes down from 2 crores to 1 crore, that's perfectly fine by me. But the company needs to ensure that that 1 crore goes to free and open source software that I'm going to enforce, right? Or we are going to ensure that there is going to be a new program where constantly money is going to open source projects, free and open source projects. Maybe people in the company are able to contribute to free and open source projects, etc., etc.
Okay. The second question is, if you had to take over the IT ministry, in the first 100 days, what all policies would you be implementing in favor of open source and free?
This is like what is the movie? Why am I forgetting the name of the movie?
Tamil movie, right?
Tamil,
One
Telugu,
day-
yeah.
One day
CM.
chief minister,
Yes.
yeah.
I will just enforce the existing policies.
Okay.
Because like I said, we have a policy on adoption of open source software for Government of India. We have a policy on collaborative application development, which basically means that the government can say, I'm giving you money to build an application for me, it is going to be open sourced, right? The government has policies and systems in place to say that we are going to adopt open standards only and we are not going to rely on closed standards. For me, I think I'm just blindly, maybe to my detriment of those 100 dates, enforce existing policies, and just that I think is going to be a significant change from where we are now.
Do you think GitHub is becoming a dumping ground for vibe coding?
More and more so, I think so. Yeah. So it's very good to see students pick up generative AI models. It's very good to see students pick up generative AI models and play with them. It's very good to see them want to solve problems. And it's good for them to put things out in the public. All of that is well and good. We've always had people who are playing around with software, who are trying to build toy solutions, and they put things up on GitHub. Like, I have projects which are embarrassingly, which I feel embarrassed by when I look at the software quality of those projects. But I think the volume of projects which are ending up on GitHub right now, where someone has over one weekend written tens or 100,000 lines of code, most of which isn't going to survive an year, if not a month. Because again, it isn't well thought out, it doesn't follow good patterns, good practices, it doesn't have good architecture, etc., etc. That the rate at which this is happening is just absolutely incredible. It's definitely adding to the number of sort of zombie projects on GitHub where it's not going to live, it's just going to sit there collecting dust. Worst of all, like I said earlier, right, the generative AI models use publicly available software to be able to train themselves. How well do you think a generative AI model 1 year down the line, 2 years down the line is going to behave when it's trained on bad code? Right? It's a snake eating itself. How good is a model going to be when it was trained on its own output from last year? So that is something that a lot of us in the FOSS ecosystem are talking about, but I'm not seeing a lot of people outside discussing.
Is it more about quantity or quality?
So India excels at quantity, right? Like there's a lot of us, and if even like n percentage of us end up generating code, that's going to be a lot. And I think in general with India, we keep talking about the population dividend. We keep talking about the population dividend. We keep talking about how young we are as a country, etc., etc. Right? So it's always good to have more people who are picking up software, who are using software to solve problems in domains, and are also making it public. But the focus also needs to be on quality. We can't just, a lot of the times the discussion always stops at quantity.
Okay.
A lot of people just talk about we need X number of developers. We don't say we need X number of developers who have A quality.
Okay.
Right? And quality always ends up being an afterthought.
Okay.
We say that no, today we get the code out and then tomorrow we'll work on the quality. That doesn't work that way.
Okay.
And it took 4-5 years for my mentors to drill it into my thick skull
Okay.
that you cannot skimp on quality, and quality has to be a fundamental thing from day zero in your job.
Yeah.
Because it is very, very easily and quickly all going to go to very, very terrible, unmaintainable code if you're not being very intentional and very careful with the way in which you write software.
Okay.
We definitely have a lot of quantity coming out.
Okay.
And we should be very explicit about the fact that we need quality with quantity, and we need to ensure that we are talking about it across the board.
So as AI models start to generate, refactor, and even govern code, how do you see the role of a developer evolving?
So I find it very interesting, right? So even before AI, there were tools that we could use to be able to refactor code. There were tools that we could use to understand where the bugs are. There were tools that we could use to understand like how the software could be improved, etc., etc. But AI is definitely bringing a new level of understanding in the code base, and it's able to recommend a more systematic. It's able to recommend a more systematic set of changes that can happen across the code base. Like one of the things that previous approaches used to struggle with is how do I make a set of changes across tens or hundreds of files in my code base. But now the generative AI tools are able to do that very well from what I understand. But one of the fundamental problems always is going to be humans in the loop.
Okay.
There's this very interesting article that I came across in the communications of the ACM. ACM is Association for Computing Machinery, right? And the article talks about, is computational thinking still important in the age of generative AI? Okay. And these people talk about the fact that, you know what, computational thinking is even more important now than it has ever been.
Okay.
Especially because the barrier to entry for software has been reduced because of generative AI. This is the thing that everyone is hyped about, right?
Okay.
Everyone is hyped about the fact that, oh my God, anyone and everyone is able to write code right now.
Yeah.
But that also means that there needs to be a lot more emphasis on having the right structured thinking. How do you take a large problem, break it down into smaller chunks? Which of these chunks do you prioritize as the most important thing? Okay. And then how do you build all of these things out? Okay. Right? This is basically what prompt engineering is. Yeah. How do you prompt this system in a meaningful way so that you're able to build on top of the software that you're getting back from the model? Okay. And more importantly, one of the interesting things that I'm seeing happen is senior and staff and sort of architect level developers, they have the software architectural understanding, right? Like they've seen tons of products and solutions, and when the model gives a solution, they're sort of looking at it like a junior developer who's just written some code, but within a few minutes, and they're able to give meaningful feedback to that model, like they're giving pull request reviews, saying, no, you should change this in this way. Why don't you do that in that way? Why don't you rewrite this and get back to me, etc., etc. Okay. So that is something that I'm seeing come up in multiple different places with multiple different people. They're talking about how their velocity as a developer has significantly increased because they have the right mental models. Okay. And then they're able to extract the most out of that generative AI model. The problem here also is this is causing a lack of junior developers. Like until now, you are relying on junior developers to do that work, and through this process of telling the junior developers, you're training them up, and then they become seniors and staff people like half a decade or a decade down the line. But now, if the senior and staff people are saying we don't need juniors, we stop training them. A decade down the line, who are going to be these people who will prompt that model in a meaningful way? Right? So this is again like why for me, like we still need humans in the loop, people who have solid understanding of what is the architecture of this thing that we're building out. What are the pain points? Which of these things are the most important for us in our application, etc., etc., etc. But at the same time, in the way in which we are teaching software, a lot of the times we teach syntax, we teach tools, we teach tool usage. We do not teach computational thinking. And that is only more important now than it has ever been before. And yeah, that's something that I think we, not just in India, but across the world, need to focus on.
Do you have anything to say to the freshers and the juniors, the final year students? And do you have any comments on the job losses that is happening in India?
So I'll give my very personal opinion, right? I did a bachelor's and master's in physics, and then I did scientific software for close to a decade, and I'm now leading a FOSS organization. The only thing that is cross-cutting here is the fact that I like interdisciplinary work. And I naturally stumbled into it, but now that I look back on it, that has been a very fundamental thing that defined me as a person and the work that I do. And for me, it's a great skill because all of a sudden I'm able to bring a different perspective into conversations where I'm not coming from the point of view of I'm a computer science student, I'm a computer science graduate, and I'm going to talk about software, purely software. I'm an interdisciplinary person who thinks about how is this software going to be used, but at the same time, how is this software going to solve problems, not just of software, but for people as a whole, right? A lot of the times, for example, with free and open source software, right? People think of it as by the software people for the software people. That is not the case anymore. My advice for students has been for the last 3-4 years, or any student that I run into in the free and open source software community, pick a domain and gain some amount of expertise in that domain. If you're coming from a computer science background, or if you're coming from an engineering background, pick up some amount of computational skills. We need mechanical engineers who are able to do computational fluid dynamics modeling. And we need computational engineers who are able to work with mechanical engineers or aeronautical engineers on how do you model rockets and how do you model rocket trajectories, right? India is spending so much and wants to spend so much on, no, we are a nation that makes stuff. We're not just a nation which builds things for others anymore, right? And when that is the focus, when we're talking about Atmanirbharta, we need to focus on developing that capacity ourselves. And the current trend of every college having multiple flavors of computer science, I'm going to call them flavors, right? Like there's an AI ML flavor, there's a cybersecurity flavor. And those are happening at the detriment of hard engineering roles. And this is because while the government is saying that we want interdisciplinary work and deep tech work, the government isn't investing as much as they should be. And at the same time, the messaging that is going to the colleges is definitely not sort of backed by what they're saying. When the colleges are cutting core engineering intake and they're moving all of that to computer science intake. For me, a hard message is going to be for anyone who's in college right now, please pick a computational skill if you're coming from an engineering background, and if you're coming from a computer science background, please pick some domain that you're going to be interested in. The other way in which I'm saying this is, how do you differentiate yourself in a sea of developers? There are lakhs of people graduating, everyone with the same computer science degree. How do you differentiate yourself? And this is how I was able to differentiate myself, because I went and said, oh, I'm someone who can do computation with a background in physics. Right? You can say that, oh, you're someone who can apply computational skills in a mechanical engineering domain, in an aerospace domain, in biotechnology, in life sciences, etc., etc. All of a sudden, you've cut down competition from 1 lakh or 10 lakh students to maybe 1,000 people who are competing with you on those jobs. Right? So that becomes a lot more interesting and a lot easier. a fundamental comment also is there's a lot of people that I'm personally seeing, and I'm very ambivalent about this, who are just choosing to skip college entirely. I'm seeing a ton of these kids in the FOSS United community as well, where they're saying, no, there's no point in doing college. They'll either skip college entirely, or the college is sort of namesake and they don't have to attend classes. They're not attending classes, and they're just getting a degree at the end of the day. Which is very weird, and I'm very confused, and I'm not able to figure out how do I make sense of this. But the one thing that I'm definitely seeing is there's a lot of kids who are choosing not to go to college. They're somehow able to find jobs in the industry, and they're choosing to sort of, like, it's not official apprenticeship, but that is effectively what is happening. They're apprenticing with these software companies or startups for 3 or 4 years while they figure out where they want to end up. And then the good thing that is happening is the online degrees that exist right now, right? So once they've figured out, do I want to be in this way, which part of this computer science ecosystem, software ecosystem do I want to be in, then they're able to say, okay, I'll go do that online degree, I'll get my basics right, I'll get my theory strong, and you're able to do it after having experienced some amount of apprenticeship and some understanding about the job possibilities.
And regarding the job losses?
So, two things, right? I think I'll talk about it from the point of view of my mother. My mother worked at a bank. And she one day told me what ATM stands for. ATM stands for automated teller machine. Teller was a physical person in a bank who you would go, you would ask them to give you money, and they would give you money. And we now go and ask a machine, and the machine gives us money. There was this huge fear that all of those people are going to lose their jobs and that there'll be this huge layoff of all of these tellers. The reality was most of them just ended up doing other work at the same bank. The thing that did happen was when the banks digitized in the late 90s and early 2000s, if I remember correctly, there were a lot of people who feared the digitization. They didn't trust themselves to be able to upskill themselves. They didn't trust the technology that was being introduced to them. And therefore, they decided that, you know what, it's better if I take early retirement. The bank is giving me a chance to get out. So I'd rather get out instead of learn this, worry about it, or maybe potentially risk losing money because I made something wrong in the computer. That for me is a significant lesson, because they're quite likely, and if not already, job losses because of generative AI. Both because the companies hired potentially unnecessarily and now they're laying all of those people off. But at the same time, there is definitely an undercurrent of people using generative AI, becoming a lot more productive potentially, or being able to do work that needed to take like 8 hours within 1 hour or 2 hours. But that also means that we need people who are comfortable to upskill themselves, and we need companies who are willing to spend the money to do the upskilling. The thing that I didn't mention is the fact that the banks spent a lot of money upskilling the clerks and the officers in the banks to ensure that they know how to use these technologies. Right? And I don't know how many of the corporate companies right now are spending that sort of money on ensuring that their juniors, their freshers are being upskilled so that they're able to use these technologies meaningfully instead of just becoming part of the layoffs that they need to do.
Okay, thank you.
When we're actively trying to say that we need to create a digital commons that everyone has access to, that everyone can use freely, that everyone should be able to build upon, that doesn't discriminate any one person or any one kind of usage. I'd gone to this professor for a summer internship. The professor said, here is some data, here are some visualizations that you need to create. I don't know how you will do it. I don't care how you will do it.
Ever since I was exposed to open source, it was very recently, so it was curious. I just wanted to understand, how do people gravitate towards open source?
That is when I started realizing that, oh, somebody is creating these open source packages. Because I was at a company where we were creating open source packages. So over the course of like 2 months, I slowly, painfully figured out what Python was, how I could go about using it with the programming languages, with these open source like scientific Python libraries in this way. And then, like I said, it was all about what do I use them for, what can I get out of it, and hey, if I am the person who's helping maintaining these packages, who are the people helping maintain NumPy and SciPy, what is the sort of history of how these packages came into being.